something that had come up because I was watching a channel that this person was, and I could totally, I really put myself kind of as much as I could with everything I knew about these people. I was like, okay, according to their sources, this is what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. So when they see a bunch of people who consider themselves conservatives or right of center, and they are on the side of, not so much on the side of Putin. I wouldn't even say they would say that, but that they don't understand how important it is to, to fight back the powers of snow cobra, and so the issue that I've ended up having to think about is, I was like, okay, let me go to the essence of it. Like, because I'm like, there's all this stuff about Ukraine that if you know about it historically, and then if you've followed what's been going on with, like, say, the propaganda from their government that they'll put out, say, like, when the Azov, if you found the Azov Battalion's channel, it was active and then it went dead, but then it suddenly went active again, and it was extremely well put together. And so it meant that there was a lot of money that went into it. There was professional music and editing. And so I'm like, so how did, again, this group Azov Battalion suddenly get all this money and all this talent to do this? And so I started, so I had to sit back and I'm like, okay, so if I know this, then, and I've been watching this build up, what is it about, say, the older conservatives and stuff, and their experience? This was the thing. They have experience and sources that are telling them the best possible thing to do is to keep pressing. But then I'm like, I don't really know pressing for what? To get that eastern portion of Ukraine back to the western portion? Because I have no sources that tell me the Westerners were not shelling. And so it was this thing I was thinking about. I was like, they were certainly, from everything, I've never seen anybody disagree with that the West was shelling the East, and constantly, and that there was multiple sources for this that were completely legit sources, even our own government, and so this is why I was like that, and then like that our government stopped funding Ukraine because of the neo-Nazis that were there, that Vice News did a whole thing on the Banderites and the neo-Nazi brigades. So it's become this thing of, okay, this is at its essence what is happening now more and more with the young right and the older end of the right. We who are younger don't know who to trust. And the only person who's come through for us has been Donald Trump. And even he missed the mark over and over again. And a big part of it because there was a degree to which he trusted the system. And yeah, but also there's this part of me that wonders, did he trust the system in such a way that it's like, well, one, he had no choice, two, he trusted the system such that when it fell apart, it didn't discredit him. It showed that there's a problem with the system itself, a problem with the bureaus itself. And now, we have Heritage coming out with, Project 2025 to actually massively overhaul the bureaucratic system. But all this had to go step by step by step. The people who were Alex Jones fans knew a good deal of stuff ahead of time, but there was all this stuff that needed to be filled in. Because we just didn't know all the players. We didn't know what Bill Barr would do in the long run. We wouldn't know that when we look back at Bill Barr that we're like, wow, he actively did this. And then, and now that he's gone, he's saying this about Trump. Okay, got it. Milley, okay. You know, and by the end of it, we're like, wow, holy crap. How many people like this are in the highest echelons of the military? Like, holy shit. Like, I think Milley and some of those types have really made a lot of people on the right who would be all about the military this and the military that they're now at the stage of like, that they just don't know who to trust. They have, and now the whole thing of disbanding the FBI because we don't know who to trust. And this is, I mean, I really mean it, not even flippantly, anything like that. It's no, really, we don't know who to trust, and being assholes has worked. Being unlikable and being assholes has worked. It's made a lot of people who are like, wait, but we do need these fuckers to vote the way we want. So a lot of people have had to self-efface. Like, and for a great example, I even thought about this, was Thomas Sowell himself writes that piece about Donald Trump. This literally tanked the National Review. The young right did a hashtag campaign to the NRO, the National Review Online is over. It's fucking over. And it was. It lost its cred. And that was that. You know, it's just, and Thomas Sowell then later ends up like having a moment where he self-effaces and he writes about it, and he's like, I called this wrong. You know, I really did call this guy wrong. You know, I called it wrong on this guy. And it changed everything. And so Thomas Sowell has since written, like 4 books since that time? And they're selling like hotcakes. And there's an entire portion of the internet now that are black people becoming Republicans. And it's heavily credit is due to Thomas Sowell for this. And so there's just a lot of stuff that I'm like sitting back and I'm like, it worked. Our method of being kind of unlikable worked. That I don't think enough Republicans got how kind of corny they were. And that in this corniness, they came across totally like Flanders. That you could do anything to Flanders. And Flanders would be like, illy-dilly-dolly, you know, and it just, and it would just lose. Would just lose and lose and lose. And then it was, a bunch of rather cynical, dissident, unlikable people started saying, you know, a lot of playing out what a lot of the Republicans are saying. I mean, it's just accurate. And that was the thing, is that's one of those issues with dislikable people, is it's like, well, but this is accurate. And now you see, you're finding, oh no, the liberals are a different kind of dislikable. It doesn't, these are people that they are not fascinated by they're not curious people that are fascinated by the idea that, wow, that I was wrong about that. And like, this is like this fascinating realm of knowledge that I never even knew existed, that I could then learn more about myself and the world around me. This is like, I swear, everybody's dropping off their kids, and it is like totally insane. Like, I'm just looking at this intersection and I'm seeing like the car with like mega bumper stickers on every surface. And I'm just like, okay, slowly creeping up, slowly creeping along. Have no idea how fucking dangerous this is going to be. Yeah, don't fucking know why you people do this. You would think like a district school or a school that would be like a neighborhood school, the kids would walk to school, even if it's wet outside. No, you have to have 1,000 cars drop them off. It's fascinating. And this is a very liberal enclave. This is the liberalist of liberal schools, where all the hippies make sure to change their addresses so that they go to this school, so they're not out there with the rednecks. Swear to God. There's so much of that kind of culture in this liberal enclave that it's really funny. When you happen upon it and there'll be some conversation about something, and it's kind of like, oh, I went to this school, and it's obvious there's this kind of nose in the air thing, and you're like, really? Have you heard? Okay. And because, of course, the people who are out in the outlying schools are more likely to be country people who are just better equipped at everything. And so it's like when you deal with the people who you know they're graduates of the deep in town, nice end of town hippie school, you like start to realize, like, no, a lot of these people are like they're just hippies, you know, like, and some of them don't even know it. Like they're hippies. They're so deep in the hippie that it's like they don't even know they're hippies. And so there'll be things that they think that they just have no idea. Like, oh no, that's just some hippie bullshit. And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah. Like, how, you know, you hep them to the game that they just don't even know what to make of their background after that, you know. But yeah, it's so there's now this issue with the right and the older end of the right, that we don't know who to trust. And then also the libertarians and the anarcho-capitalists, there's this kind of ugly thing with the conservatives and them, and they'll snarl at each other. Well, the anarcho-capitalists and libertarians don't do a lot of snarling, but the conservatives do, because, you know, it's like they look at them as these people with the kind of unrealistic ideal, you know, of, and no war and no armies, and you would have a private armies or something, and whatever, you know. Even though they know these people are citing certain aspects of history, that these aren't bad citations, like these aren't bad arguments that are being made. But when these two groups compete with one another in kind of on the right, you know, and policy stuff on the right, it does end up where you have fundamentally these people who they'll talk about, say, Russia is going to gobble up Europe if something isn't done about them. And a lot of people are like, I don't really know how to square that circle. They'll look at like what the economics tell them. They'll look at like what their demographic issues are, stuff like that. And they're like, you know, this is kind of amazing they're doing as well with Ukraine as they are. I mean, after Ukraine, will they even have resources to have much of an armed forces? And that's like a real thing. I mean, like, really, like a lot of people on the right are like, no, seriously, I think this is going to totally ruin, you know, like lots of countries by the end of it. And so we just don't know, like, that there's this end of the conservatives that it's sort of like, it doesn't matter the expense. And that's then another one that we're like, okay, really, we're going to save money if we spend it now? I mean, really? You know, and we can't square that. We can't figure out how that's going to work. We can't figure out why Russia would gobble up the rest of Europe in some giant thing to create a new Soviet empire. We just can't see how they can do it. Even if they had some kind of political will, like, how would they get the people to go for that and to pull it off? And we're having such a hard time seeing it that we just don't know who to trust. So there we go.